It's chapter 299 of Blue Lock, and Ego has just said the two most dangerous words for a Blue Lock player to hear: lock off. And the one on the receiving end of this devastating phrase? Nagi Seishiro, one of the most important pillars for the Blue Lock franchise for almost 300 chapters. It split the fandom right in two, with some believing Nagi deserved to be kicked out, and the other defending the elite talent he still had. It's a tough conversation, and I found myself having to decide where I stood and how I felt about this decision made by Kaneshiro. I sat and I thought about it for a while, and I arrived at my conclusion. Nagi Seishiro, assuming he stays gone, is a truly tragic tale of a timeless lesson we should all strive to remember: that talent is never enough. If you enjoy this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, watch the video to the end if you can. I'll make it worth your time. I want to begin by painting a picture for you all. I believe this is something we can all relate to. Have you ever been in class and you know how there's that one kid who's just brilliant, like absolutely brilliant in their intelligence? So much so that you see them slacking off. You see them just messing around because they're just that fast and good at learning. So they procrastinate till the last moment, cram for like 2 hours, and boom, score the highest and move on to the next thing. Assuming you're not one of those people, I wonder what you felt watching people like that. What emotion did you feel? Is it admiration, jealousy, and envy maybe? Or perhaps you're indifferent. I'm not here to tell you which of these emotions is the right emotion to have. I'm only using it to say that classmate who was just naturally good at school, so intelligent that they passed without trying, that's Nagi Seishiro. Only for Nagi, it's about football. He was a bored student, only interested in playing video games. I'm not one to call Nagi lazy because he's not lazy. He's just not passionate about the things a high school student should be passionate about. Give him a video game and you'll see just how much time he'll dedicate to it. He's not an idiot either. Place him into a situation that challenges him and he'll showcase how brilliant he can be. But most of all, he's not talentless, because he has one of the best combinations of natural skill you will see in Blue Lock. Standing at a 6'3" and yet as agile as a seasoned ballerina, he's able to contort his body in numerous positions, and his first touch is the best in all of Blue Lock. A truly remarkable talent. And still, Nagi Seishiro has been kicked out of Blue Lock, forever separated from his friends, and is dealing with a very sad reality where his talents wither away into nothingness. What happened? I believe that the failure of Nagi Seishiro can be summed up into 4 character chapters: curiosity, frustration, fire, and fall. I will go through all of these 4 points, so please follow me on this. One of the things I want you to understand about Nagi Seishiro is that even though his character is synonymous with a lack of motivation, it's important to characterize it even more specifically. Nagi lacks the motivation to try, not the motivation to do. These two things are not the same. Some people want to do a thing but lack the motivation to do it, and there are others who lack the motivation not to do it, but to try. They don't even know if they like a thing or not because they're just unmotivated to try. That is Nagi Seishiro. He doesn't desire friends, popularity, or much of anything else. Just working at a convenience store would have been enough for him, all as long as he could continue to be unmotivated but be able to live a simple enough life. He would like money, but he's not motivated enough by money to work hard at getting money. He'll do the bare minimum to get enough to survive. So when Ryo recognizes his talent, it's easy to get Nagi to comply, because by offering Nagi money, Nagi would get to do the things he wants to do most: slack off. Even better, all he has to do is play this soccer sport that comes really easy to him for a couple hours each day. That's a sweet deal. And that is where we find Nagi at the beginning, scoring goals for fun, just following Ryo's orders and being happy enough to do so as long as he got to do nothing afterwards. But when he encounters Team Z, things start to change. They go up 3-0 against Team Z and expect things to be just like any other game. But Team Z doesn't give in. They push back and respond with 3 goals in kind. Not only that, Team Z manages to stifle Ryo, who's unable to coordinate with Nagi, and that isolates him. Now, he's in a position where he will lose for the first time in his soccer career, and the one he looks to for guidance cannot assist him. In this moment, Nagi takes the initiative and grabs the game by the scruff of the neck. He himself is not entirely sure as to how or why this is happening, but he grows ever increasingly curious about soccer. He taps into his own evolution and pulls off moves he himself did not know he could. What was once a boring pastime, meant as a means to an end, was getting kinda fun. He was feeling new things and experiencing new emotions. His curiosity was piqued. After he lost that game versus Team Z, and after Isagi outsmarted Nagi using his direct shot technique, Nagi felt the emotions associated with losing for the first time. It's called frustration. He was curious at first, but now he's frustrated. So now let's talk about that. Reeling off the pain of loss, Nagi enters the second selection with Ryo. He's not used to being in this position. He's not used to feeling the pain of loss or frustration beyond that of a video game screen. So you can imagine that Nagi doesn't quite know how to best approach these feelings. He sees Isagi in the waiting room for the second selection and wants Isagi to join his team. Isagi politely refuses, and Nagi then decides to leave Ryo to join Isagi. This is going to be the beginning of a series of decisions that Nagi will make in regard to Ryo and himself that will ultimately shape his eventual demise. Nagi wants to know more about the deep frustration he feels, and he believes that Isagi can help him learn more about it. Now look, Ryo is his own man and he's got his own mental shortcomings. I won't get into that here. Ryo is being a bit of a baby about this, but Nagi's very odd in how he handles the situation. I personally believe that allying himself with Isagi was the right thing to do, but Nagi right now is the equivalent of a kitten that's being drawn by the sound of their food container shaking. It's painfully simplistic for him. He's curious about soccer and frustrated about his weakness, so he joins the one he feels can help him. It's not a nuanced thought process, neither does he take Ryo's feelings into actual consideration. He's just pulled in by these questions he has and goes with the flow. Nagi, Isagi, and Bachira then enter the second selection. The second selection involves forming a team of 3 and facing other teams in a first to 5 goals game. If you win, you select one member from the opposition and continue until you make a team of 5. If you lose, you go back down and play a 2-on-2, and if you're not picked for that, you lose and lock off. Nagi plays against Rin's team. Now faced with an even more powerful opponent, Nagi's frustration grows, but so do his abilities. He's getting better as he continues to play. After losing to Rin, they lose Bachira, and Isagi and Nagi drop down. The frustration is hitting a breaking point, and he looks to Isagi for guidance, but Isagi is fighting his own demons. The second selection highlighted how little they can do without their partners in Ryo or Bachira, but the two regain composure and decide to try again. In that moment, Nagi asks Isagi how he can rid himself of the frustration he feels, and Isagi tells him that the only way to do that is to win. Isagi and Nagi then have a match against Baro and Naruhaya. What Nagi finds here in his interaction with Baro is that they do not like each other, something I find very fitting. Baro Shoei is a hard-working, driven man who has a very strong personality. He's not lazy, he's very meticulous and detail-oriented in his day-to-day activities. On the other hand, Nagi is extremely carefree and not very motivated to do anything outside of very specific situations. This makes them oil and water. They don't mix, and it makes for very entertaining scenes between the two. In this match, Nagi continues to progress and his goals hold things down for Isagi until he undergoes his own evolution that leads them to winning. They then choose Baro to join them and they continue their journey towards completing the second selection. The next match they have is one that hits close to home for Nagi and Isagi. They face Kunigami, Ryo, and Shigiri. Baro's kingly conviction makes him a pain to deal with, and this forces Isagi to zone in on Nagi. The two of them combine to score a few goals, and Nagi is feeding off Isagi's very strong personality. The two have a very effective playstyle together, and Nagi is enjoying his football. The more he wins, the less frustration he feels, and at the moment, that's enough. After they win, they choose Shigiri instead of Ryo, and Nagi turns his back on Ryo, telling him that he's a pain. For a character like Nagi, the worst thing he can say to you isn't that he hates you, or wants to kill you, or anything like that. For someone like Nagi, the feeling of something being a pain in his ass is the worst thing he could say to you. And he said that to Ryo, which honestly broke him. Ryo accuses Nagi of changing, and he has. In pursuit of learning more about the emotions he's feeling, he's found a desire to be stronger, and playing with Isagi is helping him achieve just that. This new team then heads into their next battle, a rematch against Rin's team, plus Bachira. In this game, the stakes are high and everyone brings their A game. During the match, Nagi feels how insane the match is with Isagi jousting fiercely with Rin. That energetic vibe is affecting Nagi and he wants to crush them. Nagi's shining moment in this match happens when he realizes that Isagi cannot defeat Rin due to the physical limitations. Nagi decides to become the piece that evens the field. Charging into the heart of the defense, he combines with Shigiri and Isagi and performs a new move, a 2-stage feint volley shot, overcoming Rin Itoshi. Nagi scores, and feeling that exhilaration of victory, he apologizes to Ryo because he can't go back to how he was before. Soccer is too much fun. Now, as you know, Nagi and Isagi don't win this match. Even though they put up a hell of a fight, they still lose and Isagi is chosen, leaving Nagi and the others behind. After Isagi is chosen, he turns to the others to try to comfort them, but they all refuse to be pitied. In fact, Nagi makes a very important declaration. He tells Isagi that he'll crush him the next time they meet. At the time, I didn't think much of the statements by Nagi. It's the usual stuff, blah blah blah, but no. Nagi just sets a goal for himself. He had previously not been motivated to do anything. He came to Blue Lock and found out how frustrating it is to lose. He then found out how curious he was about soccer and attached himself to Isagi, who he believed would help him grow. And he did grow. So too did Isagi. Isagi grew so much that he became the desired piece for the winners, not Nagi himself. And so, Nagi sets himself the goal of catching up to Isagi and defeating him. Isagi became Nagi's goal. Nagi had come to understand a little more about the fire inside him. A fire that pushed him to try harder and to do more to achieve victory. So now, let's look at the next phase of Nagi's characterization. The fire. Right after the second selection, Ego was forced to have Blue Lock play a match with the under-20 Japanese team, and so all the in-house competition stopped for a little while. In the match against Hitoshi Sai and the under-20s versus Blue Lock, Nagi makes a massive statement in the match, scoring a tap lift turn around goal, announcing himself to the world and gaining massive amounts of fanfare and adulation. He doesn't do much else in this game, but you have to realize, this was a massive game and there were a lot of main players here. Fact is, the 4 players who scored in this game should be considered important characters for Blue Lock, and Nagi was not only one of them, he scored the first goal for them. Also, I want to mention that during this arc, Ryo and Nagi kinda make up. Ryo has come to respect Nagi's desire to become better than he is, while he himself is learning more about his own inner desires. But in any case, Nagi at this point has become familiar with his feelings for soccer. It's fun, it's exciting, and he's enjoying himself. The challenges appeal to him and he's enjoying that fire lit inside his soul. This leads us to the Neo-Egoist League. Here, Nagi is presented a choice of which soccer culture to invest himself in. His drive leads him to the England club of Manchester City, where he learns under the tutelage of Chris Prince. This new Nagi is way more dangerous than before. Previously, Nagi would be a play finisher. He would receive passes and pass back, or shoot and try to score. But here in this match against Isagi's Bayern Munich, Nagi can be a play starter, not just a finisher. A lob comes towards him and Nagi is marked by 2 defenders. He places his hands on both of them and shields them from the ball, which he then traps and immediately spins forward, completely evading 2 defenders. Nagi is now trying to be even better than he was before. He wants to try. I suppose you could say, he's motivated.
I am the storm that is approaching.
We learn more about Nagi's mindset coming into the match. Chris Prince asks him what his ideal soccer style is, and Nagi's answer is that he wants to beat Isagi. Chris Prince asks for more details, and Nagi tells him that he just doesn't want to lose to Isagi. Chris warns him that desiring to beat one player isn't enough to become the world's best player. And Nagi's response is that he hasn't thought about being the world's best just yet. He just wants to beat Isagi. That's it for now. Red flag, red flag, red flags everywhere. Chris Prince then asks Nagi what his tactics are, and Nagi says he never thinks about it. Ryo or Isagi just pass to him. He does not know very much about soccer. After running some tests, Chris concludes that Nagi has no creative abilities at all. and he feels that's where they should focus on. During their conversation, one of his teammates named Agi comes in and he talks to Nagi about this concept of pain. There are two kinds of pain. The first is when you don't want to do something, but you have to, which is passive pain, and the other is when you think of something that you want to do, active pain. He wants Nagi to dedicate himself to active pain, enduring the annoyance of achieving something that he himself knows that he wants to do. This is very similar to the points I made at the beginning of the video. Nagi's motivation isn't that he's unmotivated to do, he's just unmotivated to try. In any case, Nagi coordinates with Agi, who combines with him. He traps the ball into a feint juggling shot, which would have scored if not for Yukiya blocking him. So Nagi doesn't score, but that's okay. He's under development. Agi continues to instruct Nagi on his thought process, and Nagi's actually willing to try. Following the fire he feels inside, he's become a better player and expanding his abilities. Raya at this point is content seeing Nagi continue to progress, and you need to remember that. It'll become important soon. Okay, so Isagi undergoes his Metavision evolution and intercepts a pass heading for Nagi. Manchester City scores and the game is now 2-1 in favor of Bayern Munich. Before the game resumes, Nagi approaches Ryo and tells him that he wants to beat Isagi. He really wants to surpass him, but Isagi keeps getting further and further away, so he's not sure he can do it anymore. He's following the instructions of Agi and Chris, but the creative thing is way too hard. Right now, soccer isn't fun. Ryo blows him off, but Nagi insists that soccer isn't fun right now, but it was fun when he played with Ryo back then. So please Ryo, help me beat Isagi. I need you. He tells Ryo that he's always been with him ever since he decided to play soccer together. He's just been making the best choices he could to achieve their goal of winning the World Cup. He went with Isagi because he thought it was best. He came to England because he thought it was best, and now he's coming to Ryo because he believes it's best. Don't you feel excited? Ryo asks Nagi if it's his ego speaking, and Nagi says no. It's not my ego. It's my dream. Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. What is this brother doing? Okay, so let me make what's happening here incredibly clear. Nagi always has a creative player next to him who handles all the hassles involving creating chances. Chris Prince wants Nagi to be able to create chances for himself and others, but it's difficult because Nagi's not used to doing that. So Nagi decides to go back to Ryo and asks Ryo to handle the creative arm for him. Nagi right now is choosing not to expand his game. He's refusing the evolution Chris Prince and Agi are offering him. Instead, he wants to entrust that to Ryo. Well, let's see how that works out for him. Ryo gets the ball and passes it to Nagi, but instead of trapping the ball and creating for himself, Nagi passes it off to Ryo immediately before flicking the ball back. Nagi believes Ryo's ideas make him use his brain. Agi tries to tell Ryo to stop, but Ryo blows him off, citing that this is what Nagi wants. Ryo offers up his chameleon style to Nagi and the two work together. Their coordination is spot on as expected, and Ryo finishes it off with a bouncing through ball. Nagi then lets the ball roll across his back before flicking it off his heel towards the goal mouth. He's pounced on by Isagi and Kaiser, so he backheels it to Ryo, who responds by sending a lobbed through ball to Nagi. Nagi traps the ball and attempts to kick it when Isagi moves in to block. Nagi then fakes the shot and juggles the ball. Isagi is not affected by the feint though. He's seen it before and he saw it coming. Isagi moves to clear the ball when Nagi feints it again. This time he loses Isagi. He's about to shoot when Kaiser arrives to steal the ball and Nagi feints the ball again. 3 feints in a row. He's about to shoot when Isagi moves in to block the shot, but Nagi feints yet again. 4 feints in a row. As the ball floats in the air, Nagi thanks Isagi. I'm the best in the world. 5-fold revolutionary feint volley. The shot soars past the goalkeeper and Nagi scores. He screams with elation and joy as he embraces Ryo and the others. As he walks away, he thinks to himself and feels the pure joy of winning. The satisfaction. He beat Isagi. Nagi then takes a deep breath and you see his aura manifestation just start to disappear. Winning makes me this happy, huh? There's a panel where Nagi seems to be fading with his eyes closed. The clues were right in front of us all along. Now look, right at this juncture, I want to take time to shed light on another character in Blue Lock, Yukimiya Kenyu. And trust me on this is important to understand in Nagi. Yukimiya did not want to follow either Kaiser or Isagi. He believed he was good enough to succeed on his own, so he stole the ball from Isagi and tried to dribble his way past everyone towards goal. He put up quite the valiant effort and he almost scored. He was just unfortunately thwarted by Chris Prince, who cleared the ball. In response to this, Ego then talks about Yukimiya's attempt and Nagi's last goal. The internet community is going crazy, calling Nagi's goal the best goal they've seen, and Nagi's the best in the world, etc. Ego hated reading that. He also hated Nagi's goal and Yukimiya's attempted goal. In his reasoning, the goals were not easily reproducible. They were goals that surpassed even the immense talents on this field. The circumstances that would allow that to happen in a real game again are slim to none, especially on a stage with as good players as we have right now. Ego believes that Nagi is about to be tested, but the key difference I want to highlight is that Nagi scored his miracle goal. Yukimiya didn't. The success of Nagi and the failure of Yukimiya in this moment is going to be the very reason why Yukimiya remains in Blue Lock and Nagi fails Blue Lock, even though Nagi's 10 times the player Yukimiya is. The game progresses and Ryo and Nagi try to combine their efforts again, but Isagi breaks it using his improved understanding of metavision and protagonism. Nagi can't get a chance to even score. Isagi triggers the counter and with Noah's help he's about to shoot when Nagi tries to press him. Isagi easily evades him and leaves him in the dust. From there, Nagi is a non-factor until Isagi assists Yukimiya for the winning goal. Bayern Munich wins, Nagi loses. After the events of the last match, Nagi's bidding rose to 88 million, the second highest in all of Blue Lock. Things are looking up for Nagi, no? He's on his rocket ship to the top, right? Right? No. Because after the fire comes the fall. Nagi and Ryo are conversing in the locker room. After the next series of matches, Ryo and Nagi have both dropped and Ryo's rightfully worried about what they're going to do. Nagi tells Ryo that they need to change. After beating Isagi in their match, he's noticed that the fire won't come back. He can't access that drive anymore. But circumstances will not wait for them. If they don't keep changing, they'll never make it to the top of the world. So he looks to Ryo for guidance. Let's change, Ryo. Give me a new fire. Red flag, red flag, red flag again. That's like 3 now. It's the final match for Nagi, Manchester City versus Barca. As he prepares mentally, he remarks that the fire and frustration he felt, he overcame all of those to be Isagi. And now, I need to become someone new. If Nagi can't dream of being the world's best, then it's all over. Ryo's new plan is to showcase how valuable they can be to both the success of the team as a whole. He gives an assist to Shigiri, who scores. Time pushes forward and Bachira scores as well, tying the game. Prince and Lavinio come into the game and Nagi is reeling. Agi tells him to concentrate and decide for himself, for the team or for your own goals. Sitting on the fence will ruin you. Ryo tells Agi to back off and Nagi desperately tries to impact the game in any way he can. He flicks the ball to Ryo but is intercepted by Otoya. Their plays are too predictable. Bachira assists Otoya for the second goal, putting Barca up 2-1. All Nagi can do now is watch from the side, witnessing the fire of those who believe they're at the center of the world. Nagi knows the feeling, he just can't replicate it, and that's an issue. Even Ryo in this hopeless moment isn't wavering. He gets fired up too. The only one who can't seem to access it is Nagi. The play resumes and Nagi tries yet again. He evades one player with a flick, but he questions himself at a critical moment and Lavinio comes in to steal the ball. Luckily for Nagi, Chris Prince gets there first and takes it. He looks at Nagi and then ignores him, citing that he won't give a future to egoists who don't chase their ideals. Instead, he passes to Ryo and demands that he score. Ryo copies Otoya's movement and scores a goal for himself. Nagi on the side is learning that Ryo can live and survive all on his own now. After the goal, Ryo's first instinct is to apologize to Nagi, but Nagi tells him that he doesn't have to. I'll show you that I can get fired up on my own. You don't need to pass to me, and I won't pass to you. I'll win without you. If we don't score the next goal, it will all be over for me. With Ryo scoring that last goal, he ensured his survival. Nagi's the one who needs to make an impact in this match. He's come to learn that when Ryo's around him, he relies on him too much. If Ryo can fight on his own, then he too would just need to do the same. And for the first time, Nagi felt scared of losing Ryo. He turned that fear into his new fire and passed to Agi, who feels that Nagi's instincts have finally awakened. Right now, the fire that's pushing him is the fact that he won't be able to play soccer with Ryo anymore. He never thought a future like that would ever come, but it's here. He tells himself that he'll get stronger, so let me stay by your side. I'll become a Nagi who can dream of being the best all on his own. Nagi is now right in front of goal and ready to strike when Otoya appears to block his path. Nagi is not in his ideal shooting spot and needs to get closer, but Otoya is closing in. He needs to decide. Nagi's subconscious then starts panicking. He's scared. He needs to score on his own, but he's scared. But just then, Ryo appears next to him. Nagi takes a moment as he's forced to choose and he passes to Ryo. But as the ball is coming towards him, it's intercepted by Bachira, who says, I don't think so. You've got to do it alone here, even if it kills you. You are a failure of an egoist. And I don't think the detail is lost on me, that in the panel, when you see Nagi passing to the left towards Ryo, the right side where Nagi is darkened with his aura, and the side that he was passing to is the side with the light. And so it might have seemed like the right choice to pass to Ryo, the lighter option, the option that was more positive. But no, in this situation, Nagi needed to go it alone. He needed to go into the darkness. He needed to make the selfish choice, and he didn't. Bachira then scores the final goal and ends the match, effectively ending Nagi's hope of surviving in Blue Lock. Those of you not selected as the top 23 players are no longer needed in Blue Lock. Lock off. Isagi tries to intercede for Nagi, but Ego ignores that sentiment. He couldn't prove himself in the match. There have been times when he's shown us that he can shine, but he's too inconsistent. This salary is fitting. Ryo then vouches for Nagi, pleading that Nagi can make miracles happen. He's obviously a genius, you can't let him disappear here. Ego then cuts him off and tells Ryo to get a grip. This isn't school. This is a lab to create the world's best. And what the hell have you been going on about? He's a genius? Is that a joke? The results right now were clear enough that Nagi Seishiro's talent has withered away. Ego then explains something important to his players. Talent isn't the power to believe in your abilities. It's the power to believe in and then prove your abilities. But talent changes depending on one's surroundings and mental state. Friends and rivals, goals and demotions, they can all increase or decrease talent. And sometimes, you get results that surpass your talent. Nagi's goal was an example of that. In that moment, he proved that he could produce results beyond his talent. But your mistake was to think that was your true power. The world saw that goal and demanded more from Nagi, but what you should have done was realize that the goal was beyond his talent. However, the biggest mistake of all was letting that goal convince Nagi that he'd achieve his dream of defeating Isagi Yoichi. Ego then asks a question. Do you know the biggest cause of talent withering up? Is it loss of hope, despair, or fear? No, it's satisfaction. He didn't have what it took to defeat Isagi Yoichi. He just happened to win. His desire was released and an animal with a full stomach forgets how to hunt. That fire will not return. In the last match, he should have tried to prevail on his own no matter how painful it was. He should have kept the fire of his ego burning for better or for worse. The choice to team up with Ryo killed Nagi's talent. It was already withered up by then. His talent will never blossom again. To Nagi, Ego says, you spoke of being the world's best, but you couldn't find a fire beyond the dream to defeat Isagi Yoichi. You were satisfied, right? That's why you were afraid of losing the ones around you, no? This is Blue Lock. I only need crazy bastards who won't be satisfied until they're the world's best. Normies who are satisfied with less than that? Please go home. Nagi Seishiro. Nagi then turns to Ryo and admits that what Ego says is true. If I hadn't relied on you, I would have had a different future. You managed to get strong, but I couldn't find a new dream. I'm sorry that I passed to you. I'm sorry that I couldn't shoot on my own. Ryo then tells Nagi not to apologize and that he doesn't have to try anymore, but Nagi retorts, claiming that he was happy playing soccer. He got fired up, he could feel frustration and anger, he said a lot of mean things and learned how amazing it feels to win. And he also started to miss him when he wasn't around. Everything that has happened since I met you has been the treasure of my life. Nagi's ego aura of the skull starts to fade. I stopped being a prodigy. If we had gone our separate ways, we would have ended up stronger. He then taps Ryo on the head and tells him to become the world's best on his own. As he leaves, Isagi screams to him not to give up on soccer. And deep in his eyes, there's a vestige of fire left, but it's next to nothing. Nagi Seishiro is kicked out of Blue Lock. Some time passes and Nagi's home now. He's back to his old life. He goes to school and he's more popular, but the main thing is that Nagi is insisting that everything's okay. It doesn't matter what he feels or sees. His response is, it's okay. Someone asks him about Ryo, it's fine now. He walks down the stairs where he first met Ryo, it's fine now. He sees a poster for Blue Lock Under 20 World Cup and his response is, it's fine now. He sees kids downstairs playing soccer and his response is, it's fine now. Of course, that's what he thought, because Nagi is in fact not fine. He's miserable. As he sits all alone at school, he cries his heart out, regretting his past actions. Why did I not try harder? Why didn't I realize it sooner? Blue Lock was so much fun. I miss them, but I can't go back. I want to go back to how I used to be, but I can't. Days pass, and while Nagi's friends are doing a press tour regarding Blue Lock Japan, Nagi is seated alone in an arcade. His player has just lost, and the game is asking him if he wants to continue. And most of all, his eyes are dead. No fire, no light, no life. Just blank. At least for now. So ends the tragic story of Nagi Seishiro. What went wrong for Nagi? Where did he lose his way? I'm one who tends to allow each reader to interpret the events through their own perspectives, so be sure to let me know what you think down below. But as for me, this is my take. You know how at the beginning of the video, I asked you guys about the hypothetical classmate who was so brilliant that they didn't need to try hard in order to succeed? The usual rebuttal that teachers give kids like that is something akin to, eventually the work will get so hard that you can't afford to not work hard to succeed, or something like that. And they're not wrong. However, I think it misses what the real warning should be, and follow me on this. I'll connect this to Nagi soon. I just want to make this relatable point first. It's not about the literal grade a person gets. It's not about the passing or failing of a test. Those things matter, they matter a lot, but the real focus is the process. It's the ability to have a problem, fail, analyze why you failed, come up with solutions, implement those solutions, and see progress. That's a secondary but highly important feature to the whole thing, and so, the danger with the truly brilliant individuals is not that they're not as smart as they think they are, it's that as a byproduct of them being so good that they succeed without trying, they're robbing themselves of the opportunity to try, to fail, to get back up, and to keep going. Because what eventually happens is that they then find themselves on a stage where their natural aptitude is no longer enough, and they need to rely on a process, a system that practically works. But on that high-stakes stage, no one has the time to help you formulate a process that you should have had a decade ago. Couple that with them not being used to failing, they then run the risk of spiraling and getting into a whole other stratosphere of issues. That is what happened to Nagi Seishiro. Never underestimate the value of the process. When we talk about succeeding in the world of soccer as per Blue Lock terms, there are some things that you need. First, you need a strong interest in soccer. You need to have a powerful motivating dream regarding soccer. You need to have the necessary conviction to push towards it. And you need the talent or the ability to actually make it a reality. These are the things that you need. For the longest time in Nagi's life, he did not have an interest in anything. Like I said before, he lacked the motivation to try things, not the motivation to do things. Next, you need to have a dream regarding soccer. Reo and Nagi together have this dream of winning the World Cup together. And while that has some overlap with their own individual play levels, that's not the kind of dream that Ego is looking for. What do you want for yourself as an individual player? Well, we find out that Nagi's dream is not to become the best in the world, it's not to become the best in Japan either. Nagi's dream is to defeat Isagi Yoichi. Okay, pause there for a second. The problem with that dream isn't that Nagi wants to surpass a single player. The problem with that dream is that he wants to surpass Isagi. You guys know of Baki, right? The popular manga/anime. In the world of Baki, the main character named Baki doesn't want to become the strongest in the world. He just wants to be stronger than one man, his father. It just so happens that his father is the strongest creature on Earth. Ergo, he has to become stronger than the strongest creature on Earth. If Nagi's goal was Noah, who is the current best player in the world, that would be a worthwhile dream. Because Noah is number one. So it's not that it's one person, it's that it's Isagi. Isagi was the one who gave Nagi his first loss, and because of that, Nagi attached himself to Isagi and saw how rapidly he was growing. He saw how strong Isagi was becoming, and in doing so, made Isagi his goal. You know what that is? You know what we'd call this issue plaguing Nagi? It's called naivete. It's called inexperience. When you're not used to seeing talent grow and blossom, the first time you see it, you run into the risk of thinking that that's the picture of everything. Isagi Yoichi watched Noah on TV as a little child. He's interested in soccer. He knows about the sport. Even though Nagi is a teenager right now, his mental experience in regards to soccer is that of a little child. He's only been doing this for a few months, and that's the problem. Next thing, you need conviction. Listen, it's very difficult to spend your entire lifetime not caring about anything and then suddenly expect to be able to give 100% care to one thing. It's not a switch you can just turn on and off. It's built over years of caring. The process matters, and Nagi's initial motivation was getting money from Reo. From there, it became feeling frustrated about losing, and then it became feeling fired up because of winning. These aren't problematic features. This is all good things for everyone. The problem is, though, you should have done this years ago. Not now in Blue Lock where their stakes are highest. And then the final point is talent. Ego defines talent as the ability to believe in and then prove your abilities. You know what Nagi did when he needed to figure out a way to rekindle his fire in order to prove his talent? He asked Reo. He asked another person to bring him the fire. Are you kidding me? That's part of the issue. The believe part is easy. Know who you are and what you can do. The prove part is hard, because it requires practical analysis of what makes you tick. You know what you need to be able to practically analyze? You need to know the process. The process matters. And Nagi has no idea about how to process almost anything. So look, Nagi's story is a tale of warning to every one of us. A warning that talent alone is not enough. When we're talking about what it takes to be on top of the world in a given genre, it's never only about what special abilities you may have. Having a genuine interest in the subject matters. Knowing what it's like to dedicate hours of your life to a single thing matters. Applying yourself in succeeding matters. Applying yourself in failing matters. I'm one of the people who believe that this thing that happened with Nagi probably happened to many other players in Blue Lock. You fall in love with soccer, you end up watching it, you end up playing it, and then you have to decide if you want to pursue it fully. Maybe you do, and maybe you don't. Maybe you try out the first time and you fail. Now you have to come to terms with that failure. Maybe you give up at one point and quit for a couple of months, but it draws you back in. And then that makes you even more confident in your love for it. Maybe this time you succeed, and you feel that elation. The process becomes that much more ingrained into you. You find more inner belief in your decision, and it grows. Because of your interest in the sport, You know of those who sit at its pinnacle, and that expands the reach of your dreams. You aim high, really high, because you're actually interested in the sport. Nagi Seishiro is what happens to talented geniuses who are too talented to try. Because they were so good so young and so soon, they didn't have to apply themselves to get ahead. And while that might have seemed like a great benefit, they robbed themselves of the treasure of trying. They robbed themselves of the pleasure of the process. And so, they continue to move forward, getting into higher and higher places off the backs of their natural talent. But then, they reached a level where everyone is naturally talented. Everyone is as good as you when you don't try. Now, on this stage, the intangibles start to matter. Attention to detail, knowledge of the process, practical analysis, inner conviction. Now these things matter. But Nagi never got the chance to nurture those intangibles because he didn't need it to succeed. Alright, here's the perfect example of what I'm talking about. Isagi Yoichi in episode 1 of Blue Lock was in a fierce game that would send his team to the Nationals. He comes in right in front of goal and is about to shoot when his friend appears unmarked and ready to take the shot. Isagi chooses to pass and does so, and his friend hits the post. The other team then retrieves the ball, goes back the other way, and they score, dashing Isagi's dreams. On his way back, riding the bicycle in sunset, looks at a bunch of kids, realizes what just happened, screams, and cries his heart out because he wanted to win. The specific thing that Isagi did here is what Nagi did in the Neo Egoist League. He went through on goal, had the choice to pass or shoot, and decided to pass, but his pass didn't get through, it got intercepted, taken back the other way, score, and he lost. It's virtually the same thing, it's just happened to two different people at different time points. Isagi lost, and Nagi lost. So why is Isagi still in Blue Lock and Nagi not? Alright, it happened to Isagi while he was playing in high school, but it happened to Nagi in Blue Lock. Why is that? It's because Nagi was so talented that he has been able to get to Blue Lock's Neo Egoist League without learning the lesson Isagi did in episode 1. But Isagi wouldn't have been able to make it this far if he didn't learn that lesson. In other words, the same failure that cost Nagi his participation in the Blue Lock project didn't affect Isagi's career at all. That right there is the value of trying and trying early. When you try things earlier, the stakes are much lower, and you're able to learn the lessons of those failures with very little cost to your overall success. But when you're so good that you never lose early, that you never suffer early, when you inevitably do fail, when you inevitably do suffer, you're suffering on a higher stage with higher stakes, and Nagi in this case didn't get a second shot. If Nagi failed during the second selection, he would have had the opportunity to come back in the wild card. That's just the scary thing about being so good that you never fail. When you do eventually fail, you fail on a stage where failure is not an option. Talent is never enough. You need so much more. Let this be a warning to every one of you. Try things early when the stakes aren't so high. If you're in school, it's not just about the grades, it's about the process. The processes are timeless. They apply anywhere and everywhere. If Nagi began his soccer career much earlier than he did, he would have encountered these feelings much sooner and failed at a lower level, which would then save him the success he could have on the higher level. But it's too late. Now, he sits alone in an arcade, with no light or fire in his eyes. His ego is dead. I don't want to see Nagi come back to Blue Lock. I don't want to see Nagi in the Blue Lock project ever again, because that would demean the value of what Kaneshiro just did for the Blue Lock story. But to Nagi Seishiro, I think it's very important that we find a way to give him a chance for redemption. Not Blue Lock redemption, but his personal redemption. So what if you fail? Like, I understand a second chance is not guaranteed. And Nagi learned that the hard way, getting kicked out of Blue Lock. But that should not be the end of his soccer career. I think that there's a lot of value in that last chapter where Nagi is playing a video game. The character he's playing is on the ground having been defeated, and the game is asking, do you wish to continue? Countdown in 3, 2, 1. And Nagi's eyes are lifeless. I think Nagi will and should pick up a soccer ball once again. I think that it's important that Nagi finds it in himself to learn the lesson. Sure, you should have learned this lesson earlier. Sure, you should have had this done way earlier in time. We get it. It didn't happen. You've been kicked out, but it's not over. It shouldn't be. It doesn't have to be. Pick up the broken pieces of your shattered ego. Go back to 0 and start again. You will not have a pathway to the Japanese national team, but that does not mean that is the end of you. You can still work your way back. Nagi should work his way back because his story could be transformed from a warning about what not to do to a story about the potential redemption you can have if you decide to take the broken pieces of what you once were and start again. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And for my Blue Lock fans out there, I want you guys to choose what my next video is going to be for Blue Lock. I can either do a video on Borrow or I can do a video on Sagi. I'll let you guys choose what you want to see. And so if you made it this far, you get to choose what I do next. Comment down below and I'll be sure to get to that as soon as I can. This is your boy Rebirth signing off until the next video. Peace out.